Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to this special transmission where we are covering the siege on the hapless people of Indian occupied Kashmir. Today marks the 40th day since the Indian government scrapped the Articles 370 and of course 35A and thus put the people of Indian occupied Kashmir also under siege, under curfew. There is a complete clampdown on whether it be the basic necessities of life, whether it be the hospitals. People cannot communicate with their loved ones, with their families, whether they be in India or they be around the world. Now, the whole world is watching, but is enough action being taken on this? But as far as Pakistan is concerned, we have always announced that we are there politically, morally and diplomatically for our brethren in Indian occupied Kashmir. There is a resolution that is there pending in the United Nations General Assembly since decades that hasn't been acted upon. And a lot of other things as well, a lot of other resolutions in different other fora. Our Prime Minister Imran Khan, since the very first day, has talked about the rights of the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. Recently, in an address to the nation, he said that every week he wants the nation to get together and show solidarity with the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. Now, today is no exception. Our Prime Minister is going to Muzaffarabad, where he'll be holding a huge rally for his support and solidarity with the people of Indian occupied Kashmir. Not only that, a lot of other personalities, important personalities from different worlds in Pakistan are also joining the Prime Minister, whether it be sports personalities or media and film and television personalities who are joining hands with our Prime Minister, with our government to show their resolve in solidarity with the hapless people of Indian occupied Kashmir and the situation that exists in this region since the 5th of August last year. The fascist and draconian government of Narendra Modi continues to wreak havoc on the region. They want to change the demography of the region and are still denying the people of that region the right to self-determination. Now, to talk about all of that, to talk about how this Kashmir region is bleeding and what we are also doing in Pakistan for these people of Indian occupied Kashmir, and is the world really listening, or if it is listening, how much of action is being taken. I've been joined by three guests in this first part of our transmission this afternoon. I'll introduce them to you one by one. On my very right is a fellow journalist, a senior analyst, Dr. Zubair Ghori. Zubair, thank you very much to have joined us.
Thank you. Next
to him is AVM Ikramullah Bhatti Saab. You're a senior analyst as well. Bhatti Saab, a pleasure to have you here. And last but not the least, our foreign affairs expert, Dr. Muhammad Khan. Khan Saab, a pleasure as always. Let's begin with you, Zubair. Zubair, 40 days have passed. We have gone to all the fora. United Nations General Assembly. There has been a special session of the United Nations General Assembly after Security Council after more than 50 years on this issue. Well, we had an achievement over that. The IOC took out a resolution on that as well. The European Parliament took out a resolution on that as well. The UN Human Rights Council also took out a resolution recently, which was backed by 58 other countries apart from Pakistan. All this and more. We are making all-out efforts around the world to apprise the world about the atrocities that are being committed. Are we doing enough?
Well, it's never been enough, because until we get the desired result from the international community of our efforts, we cannot win those laurels that we are expecting. We cannot rest on our hunches. We should keep hammering this issue again and again and again, to not only invoke the conscience of the world, but also the conscience and the conscientious minds inside the Indian establishment, Indian polity, Indian civil society, and the people who think. Now, the problem here is that although we are doing it, but today is the pace of the media that we are facing, and there are a lot is happening in the international arena, right from Hong Kong to Kashmir, to Yemen, to Syria, to Palestine, and multiple other issues, and South American issues as well. So there appears to be a compassion fatigue in the international community, and also the focused kind of an attention that could be there. But this is a very good activity that the Prime Minister is going to Azad Kashmir, and he's holding a kind of a Jalsa there. Because in the media parlance, we say that the media will cover the event in only two ways. Either the news has itself happened, maybe an accident, maybe some activity, maybe some catastrophe, or you create an event. So this is an effort to create an event. X number of people, maybe some thousands will be there, and no less than the Prime Minister of Pakistan is addressing there, and he will be saying some substantial things to incite, to invoke, and to make this effort that the international media should cover it. Because of the kind of what should I say, a kind of insensitivity that has emerged in the international politics about the human rights issues. So you need to hammer it, just like a marketing campaign, that you keep on telling the people again and again and again. And if we get the results, you see, this is not a mean achievement that UNSC has that special session after 5 years.
50 years, more than 50 years.
Yeah, this is not a mean achievement that the Human Rights Council is looking into it. And just today it has been reported that Pakistan's special representative in the UN, Maria Lodi Saiba, has once again reiterated this thing that the
Because
UN
there is a discussion going on in Brussels.
Yeah. So International Court of Justice, we are planning to go in. There are some minds in Indian intelligentsia also, and in the Indian politics, which are facing charges. People like Chidambaram, who is facing some charges. People like Shashi Tharoor, who made this voice about the Kashmiris and the human rights, he's also facing criminal charges. Same is the case with Arundhati Rai, she's also facing criminal charges. 2 to 3 of the Indian Administrative Services officials have already resigned on the issue,
Yes.
including Shah Faisal, who belongs to Indian state of Kashmir. So the problem here is that they are not budging, but we have to keep hammering, we have to keep telling, and inshallah, something will happen.
Till enough pressure is put on the Indians so that they change their stance. Now, Bhatti Saab, there's something that was pointed out by Zubair, that was compassion fatigue. Now, the Indian, what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir, the resolution is pending in the UN General Assembly of the United Nations since the last 70 years or so. All right. So do you really feel that the world has kind of divided its compassion when it comes to the situation in Indian occupied Kashmir, an issue that it remains to be resolved since decades? I mean, this kind of reminds me of the Palestinian issue as well, which is again an issue that is pending.
Well, it is now after a very long time, we just mentioned over 5 decades, that the world has once again started to pay attention to this issue. And again, thanks to Modi, that he did this atrocious activity whereby the world got attentive and Pakistan got an opportunity to raise hue and cry and draw the attention of the rest of the world community. And while it's been just over a month that this issue has come up and Pakistan at all levels has started to talk about it, and of course pointed out to the world the kind of atrocities that are going on in Kashmir. While the world until 5th of August had almost put Kashmir at the back burner, nobody was talking about it. Until 9/11, Kashmiris were still freedom fighters. They were attempting to liberate their country from occupation of India. But soon after that, because of the changed perception by the US, the same people got termed as terrorists. And unfortunately, world kind of withdrew its sympathy towards Kashmiris, whatever sympathy was existing at that time. But at least they were not called terrorists. But unfortunately, ever since then, the Indians, on the behest of the Americans, were able to successfully rename the struggle of the Kashmiri people as terrorism, and no longer a freedom struggle, a legitimate freedom struggle authorized through the various resolutions of UNO. And I think we should remain hopeful. It is just the beginning. It's just been over a month that the world has started to look at this. And while we are having this address by the Prime Minister in Muzaffarabad today, I think the 4 main parties to the issue, that is the Kashmiris, both Indian and Pakistani side, Pakistan, India and the world community, I think this activity is going to draw the attention of all these people. While the Kashmiris will feel stronger, they'll feel reassured once again of the support that the government of Pakistan and the people of Pakistan are providing. Hence, they'll feel strengthened and would be able to be better prepared to withstand the atrocities of the Indian people or the Indian governments. And at the same time, it is a reassurance of the Pakistani people of the stance that they have taken in support of the Kashmiri people. The Indian government, the Indian media, the Indian public at large would be able to see this as yet another demonstration of Pakistan's support to the Kashmiri cause. And when you talk of the world community, be it the United Nations, be it the big powers, be it the world opinion at large, when they all observe the Pakistani Prime Minister visiting Muzaffarabad, standing amongst the Kashmiris and talking of the support that Pakistan has for them, and recalling and relisting the atrocities that the Indians are committing, and appealing to the rest of the world for their support and their concern. I think that is going to be seen, that is going to be registered, and already the international media has started to regularly talk about.
There have been journalists from different international channels who have gone in the region and who have reported when they've returned from the region about the atrocities. There have been pictures, there have been small videos that have been released as well.
So I think this is just the beginning, and Pakistan will need to and will have to continue this as a campaign whereby all the people or the major stakeholders, as I listed the 4 of them, have to be kept engaged. Only then I think the world attention, the world opinion is going to move in a manner whereby the Indians will feel the heat, they will feel the pressure, and hopefully review their this renewed policy of exerting this criminal force on the Kashmiris, and with the hope to crush their demand for or legitimate demand for their determination of self-determination through their own plebiscite under the auspices of the UNO, which was promised to them not just by the UN but by the earlier Indian governments as well.
But this question mark of the United Nations resolution on Kashmir remains a huge question mark since decades. Dr. Muhammad Khan, AVM Ikramullah Bhatti talked about the Kashmiris being battle prepared, battle hardened. They have been since, especially in this new wave since 2016 when Burhan Wani was martyred, and since then we saw a new spate of this fight for the rights, for their self-determination, for the rights to choose what they want to do with their lives and to want to do with their land that has erupted in Indian occupied Kashmir. And now with the oppression since the 5th of August, there is a renewed commitment amongst the Kashmiris to go till their last breath. Do you feel that India realized what would be the consequences of the subjugation of the people of Indian occupied Kashmir when they did that, and when they removed the Articles 370 and 35A?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Umar. 2 things are important. One is that there always have been unflinching support from the Pakistan. Pakistan has never withdrew from the support of Kashmiris, whether it was political, moral or diplomatic. I think Pakistan has been supporting the Kashmiris cause more than that. There is no second opinion about that. And the second is that the people of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, they stand determined even today, despite the siege and curfew of 40 days on today. We have 40 days since August 5, 2019 that they are under siege, but they are persistent, they are determined to continue their struggle and all that. And that's what has indeed forced the Indian, compelled the Indian, that they are not lifting the curfew, they are not ending the siege and all that. But you know that determination is there, Pakistani granted support is there. But the main issue is that that is in front of the international community. Unfortunately, there have been, the world has not moved that way as it has moved for some of the issues like you can say that Bosnia, some of the issues of East Timor and all that, where the fatalities and you can say that humanitarian crises were not much deeper as what we are seeing today in the Kashmir. Kashmiris indeed, they are today dying and they are being buried right in their own houses. That's a big issue. Then there is a serious shortage of the food, there is a serious shortage of the medicines and all that. And that has been reported, what you referred, that some of the journalists, they could get into, and they got some of the videos made, some of the pictures made and all that. Indeed, they got some of the first-hand knowledge. That's important. And they have, in their own way, tried to reach out to the international community, to the humanitarian organizations, the human rights organization, that this is the state of affair in the Indian occupied Kashmir. Better do it before it is too late. Another thing is that, yes, this is a good approach that Prime Minister of Pakistan has visited Muzaffarabad on 14th of August in connection with the Independence Day of the Pakistan. That was a solidarity with the people of Kashmir on the Pakistani Independence Day. And today again, it is a solidarity with the people, because he is going to address the general masses. And those masses, they are going to be definitely, they will feel satisfied and all that. But my point is, Umar, that these all efforts, the Kashmir hour we are making here, the demonstration we are carrying out all over the Pakistan, by everybody in the Pakistan, that speaks of the support, a determined support from the people of the Pakistan, the state of the Pakistan, the government of the Pakistan, no doubt. But I think the international community has to be convinced that whatever India has done.
What do you mean to say, Dr. Khan? Is the international community not convinced of what is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir?
Unfortunately, if you look at some of the responses, those responses have not been forthcoming. Reason being that at least they should have condemned as a whole, the United Nations Security Council, they should have condemned that these acts are acts of terror. After all, Kashmir is not an Indian state. That has to be. And I'm not saying this. This is the United Nations Security Council says. And let me refer here to very important United Nations Security Council resolution. That is the resolution number 91 of 30th March 1951, and resolution number 221. That was passed on. It was on 24th of January 1957. Both these resolutions, they are very clearly declaring 122. It is 122. Which was passed on 24th of January 1957. Both these resolutions, they are asking that future of the Kashmir will be determined as per the UN resolutions through free and fair plebiscite under United Nations organization.
But we are 2019, Dr. Khan. I mean, the last you said 1957 and 1951. So many decades have gone by, nothing has been done. Is there a deliberate attempt by the international body to not work on the Kashmir issue?
Yes. Umar, this is a very important question. That this is deliberated. Why deliberated? Because India is a 1.3 billion population. And international community, particularly the major powers, they have their interest, and those interests, they are the economic interests, they are the strategic interests, they are the political interest. And world is indeed, whether it was the Cold War or the today's war, world has its own interest, the major powers, they have their own interest. Perhaps the people of the Kashmir may not be that important for them. And Pakistan has been serving the entire international community. Maybe it was the Cold War, and maybe this almost 2 decades starting from 2001, we have been giving the sacrifices, we have been fighting as a frontline state, and we have done so many. But unfortunately, the way Pakistan has done for the international community, the international community has been looking the other side once Pakistan needed international community.
All right, there are two very important points that come out of it, Zubair. Firstly, do economic interests supersede humanitarian interests? And secondly, has the world not realized all the efforts that Pakistan has made as far as for the rights of humanity as such? Why isn't Pakistan's voice being registered as it should have been since the last 1 month or so, since we're talking about it, and even before that when we've been talking about the Kashmir issue? So 2 points.
Yeah, answer to your first question is yes, a big resounding yes, because unfortunately, Pakistan and particularly the Muslim world has not been contributing as it should be in the knowledge production of the world for the last so many years, so many decades now. Look at the GDP contribution of the Pakistani community and the international community that is belonging to the Muslim world. And look at the GDP contribution that the Indians are making. Look at the bilateral trades, not only with the non-Muslim countries, but also with the Muslim countries that the Indians have. So it is a world of interest. We are living in real politics. Ideologically, yes, there are human interests. Yes, there has to be morality. Yes, there has to be sensitivity to the sufferings of the people. But there are interests. We are living in a political world and where three P's always prevail: the politics, power, and perpetuation. So if you have the political acumen, you have the power, and then you want to perpetuate it. That's exactly what the Indians are doing at the moment. So that's a long run game, and we have been, especially Pakistani economic challenges are huge. We have been left far behind. But we have been in 17 and 80s, and we are still deteriorating at the moment, and we are in a long downside. We have to look at this aspect. But having said that, there are certain examples in the world where these economic indications have been not that much looked at. You look at the example of South Sudan, where the Christians were voting their own liberations, and they got it. Look at the Rwanda issue. Although they sacrificed more than 2 million people, that was a genocide, but the world looked at it and they kind of got a stability. Look at even the Afghan crisis issue. Afghanistan has been attacked many times, and there's no economy, there's no economic indicators there, but still the world is looking after them. But then again comes the interest. It's not the case that the Pakistani case has not been taken up, that the Pakistanis have not been able to present their case, but the expectations that we have of looking at the things from our own prism, that has not been that fully met that we are expecting out of that. There can be multi reasons out of this. Dr. Khan was pointing out United Nations Security Council resolutions. The last time it was 1957.
Yes.
And after that there hasn't been that much pushing on that. And you know that we fought two big wars against India, that is in 1965 and then 1971. That 1971 war culminated into Shimla Agreement. That is a bilateral agreement. That is one of the bigger hindrances between India and Pakistan's international collaboration negotiations. If you look at the international efforts at the moment, many of the international so-called interlocutors or the interveners, or they say that we want to intervene, they say that first try the bilateral thing,
but
and
Zubair,
they keep on referring to
I'll cut
Shimla.
you short here. You talk about bilateralism and talking, both the countries, India and Pakistan, talking together. But India does not want to talk. When Pakistan has always initiated talks, when Imran Khan Sahab came into power, he said that if India puts one step forward, we'll put two steps forward. So let's talk about all the thorny issues that plague our region, both our countries, which includes the core issue of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan has always tried, but India has always relented, not wanting to do any. But when it goes to the G7 summit in Biarritz, when Narendra Modi talks to Donald Trump, he says, oh, we are all ready for bilateral talks and this is a bilateral issue.
Yes.
But then he himself makes it a unilateral issue by taking decisions by himself when it comes to the Kashmir issue. Why that? I mean, there is a duplicity in all of
Yeah,
that.
there is a genus-faced India that on the one side this is saying that we are ready for the bilateral talks, and we have shown more than our willingness. Not only this government but also the previous governments. They have already been ready to go an extra mile, and we have put an effort. But you know, there have been certain incidents. We all know that there were staged incidents by the Indian intelligence. We all know that
False flag operations.
False flag operations. First the Mumbai, and then the this Pathankot incident, then the Pulwama incident. That apparently knew that this is what they have staged them. They have been dramatized. They have been characterized. So whenever there was some development, they staged that event and put the blame on Pakistan and backed out of the whole process. This is what they have been doing umpteenth time. So one of the dimension of Pakistan's kind of marketing strategy should always keep calling those events as the false events. The false flag should also be raising. We and our media also, we must take this responsibility that we were not taking up those issues as vociferously, as intermittently, and as regularly as we should have been. We have forgotten the Pulwama incident. Somebody from Pakistani media or Pakistani academic institutions should have called that's a false, and by giving them some of the empirical evidences that these are the reasons because of that. Even in the Mumbai attacks thing, there was a German scholar who has written an article, and then that culminated into a book that said that the whole event was staged. But
I managed to interview him.
Yes, but unfortunately, the Pakistani academia and the Pakistani think tanks and the Pakistani media none has taken that responsibility on their shoulders. So this is what we are lacking. We are saying they are false, but the world needs proof. You have to give the proof. As in the incident of this attacks on Pakistan, and then we captured Abhinandan, and the Indian side of the narrative was that he is the hero, and we all know that how big a hero he is. But unfortunately, we were not able to capitulate on this opportunity. There should have been some international conferences, some roundtables, some
more
international
efforts on the
participation, some
international
academic
front.
papers coming out, and then projections of that this is what it is. Event happens, even we are standing on the right side of the history, we are unable to project that.
All right. Bhatti Saab, this inability, as Zubair says, of properly or strongly advocating or projecting the false flag operation. Speaking of false flag operations, our Prime Minister as well as our Foreign Minister has time and again indicated in the last few weeks that India is thinking of another false flag operation, and this time saying that people from Azad Jammu and Kashmir are entering Indian occupied Kashmir so as to give them a pretext to wage war or attack Azad Jammu and Kashmir one way or the other. False flag operations, one of the highlights when it comes to Indian side of the whole affair and the Indian side of atrocities, whether it be on the Indian occupied Kashmir or towards Pakistan, the animosity that it has or retains. Somehow it hasn't still digested the fact that Pakistan is a separate country now. How ready do you feel, as a senior analyst, are we this time in case of a false flag operation from India?
Pakistan has always been ready for it, and especially whenever there were elections on the Indian side, and this rhetoric, this mindset, this narrative would come up where they would be bashing Pakistan, bashing the Muslims, and eventually they would like to carry out some activity wherein they could increase their pressure on Pakistan and gain the sympathy of their voters and their religions, and hence hope to win a victory. And that is why when this election was to take place recently in India, since the end of last month towards November, December, Pakistan was able to analyze and anticipate that there would be some incident wherein they would like to put Pakistan under pressure and hence influence their voters. And lo and behold, Pulwama was there, and thereafter the Indian government became the investigator, they became the judge, and they became the executioner themselves without ever submitting any plausible evidence to Pakistan of the accusation that they made, and they went ahead and with their strike. And they did not anticipate that how readily Pakistan would respond, and it is, I think, to the good fortune of both the countries and to the world and the region that the Indians were not able to create any or cause any loss of life or property on the Pakistani side.
As they had claimed in the past as well after the Pulwama incident. You remember?
Yes, and that is why Pakistan was constrained to only give a proportionate response. But now that after the abrogation of Article 370 and 35A, the anger of the Kashmiris, their deprivation has raised to such a level where they are feeling more prepared, more strong, more determined, more motivated to pursue their right of self-determination. And the Indians have, on the other side, raised the pressure a lot more. And in order to justify their atrocities, their use of force, they have to create another situation wherein they say that their force is actually directed against the infiltrated elements. And secondly, they would like to have such an incident just to divert the attention of the world from the main issue toward a so-called aggression by Pakistan. So that is why it is very seriously anticipated that Indians could stage manage yet another incident, and in the as using that incident as a casus belli, carry out a surgical strike, and God forbid if this time they are able to cause some damage of life and property in Pakistan, the corresponding reaction or response may or may not be tolerable by India, which will lead to a rapid escalation. And once that escalation is triggered, then it cannot be seen, it cannot be judged as to where it will end, and any
Exactly.
miscalculation from any side can actually lead to catastrophic
All right, very
situation.
interesting. Miscalculation from India and these false flag operations and the resultant what could happen as a war, limited war or long-term war, or whichever the Indian side is expecting or wanting to happen, so that it can again shift the blame one way or the other on Pakistan because of the false flag operation. Our Prime Minister and our Foreign Minister have time and again said that we will not be the first to have any active force go towards the opposite side, but we will respond to any aggression from the Indian side. And then once this response begins, we don't know how and when it will end. Isn't this also a huge cause of concern for the international bodies, all the countries that have invested? Let's not talk about Pakistan, let's talk about India, the United States and other important Middle Eastern countries who have invested heavily in India. Don't you feel that it is also a cause of concern for them now that we have also maintained the fact that economic interests supersede humanitarian and political interests? Isn't that an economic interest for the world?
Umar, the past happenings ever since 2001, because 2001 I am saying because it was the Indian Parliament attack, where everybody was killed, and a poor man, poor Kashmiri, Afzal Guru, was hanged, and it was a political murder. And indeed, India would always stage manage all these events and put the blame on Pakistan in order to justify that indeed everything is from Pakistan. We are just reacting, and we are reactionary, otherwise we are not initiating any action. But Pakistan this time, particularly after the Pulwama attack, Pakistan has been sending the warnings to international community that there would be, and there are likely chances that India is going to stage manage many more dramas in the days to come in order to apportion the blame on Pakistan, so that it can divert the international attention. Indeed, there is a pressure also diplomatically. Indeed, there are the pressure from the international, you can say that scholars, intellectual think tanks, media. Washington Post has been writing on Kashmir. New York Times has been writing on Kashmir. So many international media has been writing on Kashmir. So Indians feel that pressure and that heat. Therefore, they would always like that they get any weak point of the Pakistan which they can exploit. But the Pakistan on its side has been very, very careful, particularly after Pulwama, and more particularly I would say after August 5, 2019, that we will not initiate, because we have a stated stance that we would resolve, and we would like to resolve the Kashmir dispute peacefully through negotiations and all that. And why negotiation? Why Pakistan is asking for the negotiation and again? Reason being that on negotiating table, Pakistan has a very dominating position. Legally, we are strong enough because we are being backed by all in UN resolutions which are on Kashmir and those favoring Pakistan and the Kashmiris. Then we are backed by international law, because all the interpretation on Kashmir issue of the international law that favors the Kashmiris, that favors the Pakistan. Then as a matter of fact, neither the Pakistan and Kashmiris, they have the same interest. There is no clash of interest. Kashmiris, they are dying for Pakistan, and Pakistan is making an effort for the Kashmiris at least to free them from the Indian subjugation, Indian rule and all that. Now coming over to your specific answer about your specific question, Umar, indeed Pakistan would not initiate, because any initiations of offensive from the Pakistani side is going to weaken the Pakistani case. That's the more important thing, because Pakistani case is strong. Therefore, Pakistan would like that it should reach over to the international community on legal grounds. Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, they have already announced that we are going to take up the Kashmir case at ICJ, and we have sufficient grounds for that. Already, Human Rights Council has been approached, and Foreign Minister has made a long speech with the evidences, with all the proofs and all
And that is why he got the support of 58 countries.
That's nice. And moreover, Pakistan, the Prime Minister is going to address the United Nations General Assembly on 26th of this month. And that's going to, it's not only going to be the address, but on the sidelines of UN General Assembly, he is going to talk with the important leadership at the global level. And you know that some of the international leaders, they are trying that, let's have a sort of, you can say that mediation or the talks undertaken between these two countries. The reluctant partner is not Pakistan. The reluctant partner is only India. Reason being that India feels that whenever there would be negotiations on negotiating table, Pakistan is stronger. Therefore, we cannot win. That's
They're
why
on the right side. Pakistan is on the right side. The arguments that it has are rightful. I mean, compared to what India has done
That's
or
nice.
is doing.
That's nice. But what could be the future consequences? Would there be a war and all that? Unfortunately, being a very, I mean, it's a huge country of 1.3 billion population, but more than that, it has around 1.5 million armed forces. 1.5 million armed forces. But you have seen that immediately after August 5, 2019, I mean, after the annexation, illegal annexation of
The number of troops in Indian occupied Kashmir have increased, are nearly 1 million.
But the defense minister was, I would say that we found him very, you can say that poor as far as his thinking was concerned. He said
Oh,
that
this statement on the no first use
yes,
of...
no first use of the nuclear weapon, which is indeed a deviation from the Indian stated strategy earlier India had. But more than that, that is a direct threat. International community, here I would say that international community should have taken a notice of that, because this is indeed threatening not only the region, this is threatening not only to the state of the Pakistan, this is indeed threatening to international peace, because nuclear weapons, it's not a tactical, there is no tactical usage of the
and
nuclear
the devastation is not just confined to the region, but
That's
it's going to
nice.
go beyond it. And the
Beyond.
world needs to realize that. Zubair, which brings me to a very interesting question. Now, we had talked about economic interests. Now, India has also a lot of economic interests when it comes to the world body, whether it be the US, Middle Eastern countries that you talked about as well, that have invested heavily in India. Some, I would say, even more heavily in India than in Pakistan now. When it comes to their interests, if their interests are somehow damaged or will be damaged in case of any war, let's say, limited or otherwise, between the two countries, don't these powers, who are also part of the United Nations, that can take action one way or the other, or put pressure on India, don't they realize or understand it? Are they taking this issue too lightly in your point of view?
I don't say that. I won't go to that extent by saying they're taking this issue too lightly. Just recently, there have been two important visits. The visit of the foreign minister of Saudi Arabia and the foreign
UAE.
minister of UAE to Pakistan, and that was a very good effort. As Pakistan was constantly saying that the Pakistani stance on Kashmir has not been supported by these two countries, which are, of course, our long-lived friends, and they have always been standing with Pakistan. So that was a very, very important dimension. And similarly, that was immediately followed by the visit of the foreign minister of China to Pakistan. So they are understanding, they are taking this thing, but I think they are not in a position to take a big and long jumping stance only on this thing. Because, of course, they have multi-billion interests, more than 100 billion trade is going on between Saudi Arabia and India, more than 60 billion trade is going on between India and UAE, more than 40 billion trade is going on between Iran and India. Turkey is a bit on the lower side, but Malaysian trade is on the high side.
The US.
Yeah, the US has the interest side, but so we must not forget that. But the area that we want to hit in the short term is the humanitarian issue, is the moral issue, is the political issue. We keep on highlighting the moral problems and the dilemma of the people. Like, there was a very good analogy that was drawn by an Indian with the so-called failure of the Indian satellite to land on moon just 2 kilometers away, and they lost connectivity. So this word connectivity is a very important. So one of the Indians who was living somewhere else outside of Indian occupied Kashmir, and he said that, did you feel the pain of loss of connectivity?
What happened in Indian
Yeah,
occupied Kashmir?
no other than, no less than the Prime Minister had to console the head of that unit. So what about, I have lost connectivity with my mother, with my father, with my brother, with my children. So this is these type of the strings or the elements or the themes that we have to identify and tell the people the suffering
All
of the
right,
people.
that is very interesting. Bhatti Saab, connectivity. Connectivity we talk about all the time, whether it be through media, whether it be through television, whether it be through other forms of communication. Now, this connectivity is very important. Now, this connectivity is cut between the people of Indian occupied Kashmir and the rest of the world, more or less. But this connectivity is also cut between the sane voices that are emanating in India and all the political leaders. Almost 200 politicians have been arrested from different parts of India. People have been put into jails. Around 14,000 people have been put into jails, apart from the politicians in different parts of India. Do you feel that this cut in connectivity is going to have an impact on the national politics of India, or do you feel it's a trump card for Narendra Modi? Your take.
Well, you see, power actually corrupts your thinking. And the Indian government of BJP, in its arrogance of power because of huge majority that with which it came in the second tenure, decided to or found enough courage and strength to execute or implement its manifesto and the promise that it had made in the earlier election and again reiterated in the second election, i.e. to change the status of Kashmir. And they went about with it, and they are convinced in their mind, because of the power that they have, is that by sheer brute force they can crush the hopes, the thoughts, and the promise that the UN and the earlier Indian governments had made to these Kashmiris, and they'll be able to quell this uprising militarily and hopefully, according to them, bring it to a peaceful situation. But they have not realized, or they did not anticipate the kind of reaction they'll have from the Kashmiris, the kind of strength that the Kashmiris will regain out of this increased Indian oppression, and the kind of attention the world will focus on. A little while ago, we were discussing whether the interests prevail over, humanitarian aspects. You see, when it comes to East Timor, the issue was decided
Or Rwanda or the other cases
within a year. And just because the interest was there. When it came to Bosnia, we talked about it. The European countries never wanted to have a Muslim country amongst themselves, and they had to. The Muslims of Bosnia had to suffer a lot of atrocities. A lot of thousands of them were killed, and eventually the Europeans had to take notice of it.
All right. I'm really going to cut it short right now, but Bhatti Saab, our time is ending for this part of our transmission. Dr. Zubair Hori, AVM Akramullah Bhatti Saab and Dr. Muhammad Khan, thank you very much for your time, your valuable input on this very important issue that is prevailing, that is happening in the Indian occupied Kashmir region. Ladies and gentlemen, this ends the first part of our transmission. We'll be back after a short break. Stay with us. Allah Hafiz.